Chef Nick,
Yes,
thanks for
sir.
coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, brother.
I really appreciate it. We're sitting here a little more relaxed than maybe we normally would be. We made some burgers. You showed us a basic technique, which really isn't that basic because if it was so basic, I think everyone would know it.
Well, maybe
Um,
just people need to be shown it. I mean, it's like a lot of stuff. People aren't educated per se in different ways to do things. So I think, it's, I think when you break it down like I did, it's pretty straightforward.
Take us through it. So we shot some footage upstairs. We've already eaten all of the footage. Um, However, take us through the process, just so we can
So
we
it's
can get a sense for
basically,
people listening. They can get a
yeah,
sense.
we just cooked some burgers. So it's very simple. But like I was telling these guys, it's all about having good base ingredients. So we got some good burger patties from Pat LaFrida. We lightly seasoned them. We used a cast iron pan with a mixture of oil and butter. I like to add the butter in just because it gives a little more caramelization, a little more richness of flavor to it.
You also mentioned that the oil mixed with the butter is going to change
Oh,
the smoke point.
100%. If you just use butter alone, your smoke point's super low. You're gonna smoke your house out. Your butter's gonna burn because you have the milk solids still in the butter. If you're using clarified butter, which is a process of taking the milk solids out, you get a higher smoke point on your butter. We are just using regular butter, so we cut that with a little oil. It raises the smoke point. Your butter isn't gonna burn, and you can sear your burgers in it. So as you saw with the cast iron, it doesn't need to be a screaming hot temperature. We're
No, we kept it lower than that's definitely lower than I would have guessed if I was doing it myself, and I would have, I would have messed up those burgers. It's pretty low.
It
It
was
was
pretty low.
taking
We're
time.
just, yeah, you don't have to be aggressive with it. It's all about heat and control. So we did kind of a low temperature. We got a nice sear on one side. And then from there, we had seasoned the other side of the burgers in the pan. We flipped those over. And then we added our thinly, microscopically sliced onion, as thin as we could get it. Put our cheese on top of it. And then you just cover the top of the pan. So what's happening is your burger is searing on the bottom. It's steaming as well, which is causing your cheese to melt over the top of your onions. Once that cheese was melted, it was where we needed to be. We pulled those burgers, we let them rest up so they can relax, so they're not gonna bleed out everywhere when you slice into them. Toasted the buns in the same pan, removed those. We made a very simple burger sauce, the 3-2-1. I don't think it gets, I mean, it's a classic, but easy.
I'm proud of myself. I made that burger
You
sauce.
did make that burger
Well,
sauce. You did a good job.
you diced the onions and the pickles.
I did dice the onions and the
So it
pickles.
was like in like Russian dressing relish world.
It was. It's in that, that what shall we call it? So that we don't infringe copyright. That fast food classic burger sauce world, I
Yeah.
guess. Put a spoonful of that on the bottom of the toasted bun, and then we stuck a couple of slices of pickles on the top and put the toasted crown of the brioche bun on. That's it. It's just using good base ingredients and making a delicious product.
I think a lot of people, the idea of letting it rest, like I never thought of letting a burger rest, and I don't know why. If I cook a steak, I'll always let it rest, like at least 8 minutes, more like 10 or more if I want. For some reason, never applied that to a burger. Do you feel like that's like a mistake a lot of people make?
I think it's a mistake, but I think it comes down to educating people more about food. I think it also comes to the fact if you're doing like, you're not going to rest a smash burger. Like you just don't need to because it's so thin. But as you start getting to those thicker burgers, like an 8-ounce burger, you know, you want to rest it because you're gonna have otherwise, like I said, you're not gonna have that even cooking. You're gonna be raw in the middle. It's gonna bleed out any of the juice that's in there when you cut into it, and you're trying to really showcase that quality patty that you have there. And then you want everything else to kind of work in harmony around that. And yeah, we ate some good burgers.
You killed it, right, boys?
Well,
Oh yeah.
you did too. It was a 50-50 split on the work.
I did a little work. I did a
You
little
did some
work
work.
with that with your guidance. No, it was super helpful, and I'm I'm impressed by people who can cook. but you've got an interesting story, which I think is even more impressive, and folks might not realize that by looking or listening to you, but you're an immigrant. You were
Yes,
not
sir.
born in this country. Um, you're 26 when you came here.
26, yes.
What? Why? I think just the idea of getting up and leaving a place is, it takes some guts. I think it takes some vision. Some people have to leave a place. Some people
Mm-hmm.
want to leave a place. Where were you coming from, and why did you leave?
So I was cooking in England, obviously. And it just got to the point where there was no work-life balance. It was all work. When I was working in London for Gordon, we would go in at 7 a.m. I had an hour plus commute to get there. So we go in at 7. We'd work till 2 a.m. Have an hour plus commute on the other end, and then get back up and do it all over again. We would do that 5.5 days a week. On your days off, you're just sleeping
So
and
what's that,
doing
like a
laundry.
4 hours to crash and then just get back?
If that, yeah,
Yeah, 3 4 hours.
yeah. So it's, that's all you're doing. You're living that. And I was like, well, I love cooking. I love doing what I'm doing. There has to be some way I can have a balance between this. So I had friends that lived out here, and the food scene was kind of it was up and coming for sure. So basically what I did was I was like, guys, I'm thinking about doing this. And they were like, "Oh, you totally should." And I've read stories of other chefs going to other places, people coming out, spending a couple of years, cooking in Manhattan, people going, out to Tokyo doing that, people going to Europe, obviously. And I've always liked the United States. As a kid, we used to vacation here a lot, and I was like, you know what?
In New Jersey?
Not in New Jersey. We did New York, Florida, predominantly, like the European vacations, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm going to reach out to some people. So I send emails to every, I guess, top restaurant in New Jersey at that point. Only one of them got back to me, and that was Nicholas Harari over at Restaurant Nicholas, which at the time was the #1 restaurant in New Jersey for many consecutive years. He then helped me, and it took us 8 months to get the paperwork for my visa and everything else. I was on a J1 work visa. I came out, worked for him for 18 months. In that time, I met my ex-wife, ended up getting married, stayed, and I've been here ever since. But when I first came out and I was sleeping on a couch in Linden, New Jersey. Came with a backpack, couch in Linden. The guy in the house moved out, one of them. I got mattress in a room. Then I upgraded to a futon. And then eventually it went from there and step by step by step. So I guess if you look at it now, now I have a house, I have a kid, I have a car, I have a dog, I have all that good stuff. So when people talk about the American dream, for me, it really kind of resonates because it is possible. If you have the drive and the determination to do it, you could totally make it happen.
I think the most ironic thing you said was like you came to you came to the US to find a work-life balance. It's like it's usually the fucking opposite.
I
We're
know.
like sort of the flagship for not having a work-life balance.
Absolutely.
Or
But
blending them to the point where there's no one or the other. It's one thing.
well, I think in Europe when you talk about kitchens, and I know it's definitely changed at this point. I know a lot of people have gone to a lot of places that I know of that are doing now for staff a 4-day work week, 3 days off. Things have definitely changed, but back then it was you're grinding 120 hours a week in a kitchen. When I came out here, it went from 100, 120 hours to 60 hours, 5 days a week, which for most people would say it's still a fucking lot of hours. But for me, it was like a 50% reduction. So I really did get a lot of that kind of balance back.
I know the restaurant Nicholas, which is now no more, correct?
No, that closed its doors and then it became Barrel and Roost.
Okay. So I know that place. We went there one time, my wife and I. It was amazing. Amazing. high level. I don't know what year it was. Maybe you were cooking there.
No potential.
I don't know, but it was amazing. Why does an executive chef, owner of one of the highest, at the time, the highest rated place in the area, why do they need to look across the ocean to why, like, why you? Why would they spend time sort
Well,
of
the interesting thing
getting
was
you over?
I don't think he was necessarily looking for it, but I reached out. I had a very good resume at the time, and I was proposing, I was like, oh, a J1 visa is basically it's like a student work visa. So I just finished college, and I was cooking and bartending, and I basically got to the point was I can't do this for the rest of my life. Like I have to have a little more structure. Like I want to cook, but I also want to have some balance. I don't want to bartend the rest of my life, like living through the night hours, sleeping through the day hours. So I reached out. Like I said, he was the only one that emailed me back with a response email and was kind of like, well, what are the next steps on this? Um, and he was like, can you come out and stage for a day? So in the industry, there used to be a thing called staging. Staging is where you go to a restaurant, you spend a day in their kitchens, you work for free, and you kind of show them what you got, what you can bring to the table of their establishment. So I flew out from England, landed, I went and worked for a day in his restaurant, and then I flew back to England.
Dude,
And
I
in
assume
that,
he wasn't flipping the airfare bill on that.
no, I don't think he did. No, because I wanted to show kind of, you know, that I had the chops. And so I basically, and to show him that I was serious as well. Because, you got some kid from across the world. If he's willing to, put up money for the airfare, to fly out, to do a day's work for you, to
Yes,
show you
yes.
that he has that desire, and that commitment, it puts you in a different mindset. So after that, he liked what he saw and everything else. He spoke to his lawyer. And then we started the process for the J1 student visa, which was like an 18 plus month visa, for me to be there and work for him and everything else.
That's amazing. And you moved to Linden.
Then I moved out. I was living in Linden. I was commuting originally on the train because that stopped in Red Bank. And then I got my, wait, what was it? I needed a social security to get a driving license, but needed a bank account for the social security or something like that. So eventually worked that out, got my license, got a secondhand 2001 Chevy Lumina, front bench seat,
Oh, the Lumina.
the Lumina.
I remember the Lumina.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah, big up front, felt like you were driving a speedboat. And that was my commute every day. Was from Linden. It was going down 1 and 9, just. So I got that. I did that stuff for him. Like I said, I met my ex-wife. Eventually moved down to Atlantic Highlands. Shared an apartment with her, and then continued there. We got married. So obviously, then there was a whole bunch more paperwork. I think in the end, it was about three to 5 years and around $8,000, I think. And I eventually got my green card.
who who or what was the like, what got you into cooking? Like
You
was
know,
there a
it's fun.
person or an experience?
So everyone you talk to around my age, you're like, how'd you get into cooking? And they're all kind of like, I fell into it. And you kind of did back in the day. It wasn't like you went to school for cooking or stuff like that. I mean, my uncle, um, he went to college for hotel restaurant management. And I didn't really know what I was going to do after coming out of school. I was just kind of like, had no real ideas. He did hotel and restaurant management at Strathclyde University in Scotland. And back then, there was only two schools that were doing hotel and restaurant management, possibly three, but I think the main ones were two. One was in Strathclyde, one was in Oxford. Um, I saw what he had accomplished, kind of how he was living. I had been cooking kind of short order and stuff like that up to that point. And I kind of fell into that and I really enjoyed it. And I was like, this is cool. And I was like, I'm actually good at it too. Or I felt like I was good at it
Hmm.
in the beginning. And then fast forward to when I went up to work for Gordon in London and I realized I didn't know shit.
We'll talk about that. You mentioned Gordon before, so I assume that's Gordon Ramsay.
Yes, sir.
So how does that come about?
So that comes
You don't just
about,
fall into that, do you?
funny enough, back then back then was the times when you would knock on kitchen doors. Literally. You would go to the location, you would carry your resume, you would knock on the kitchen door. You would say, hey, I'm looking to work. Can you cook? Yeah, I can cook. Here's my resume. Here, look at your resume. All right, come back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Come in, show us what you got.
And do one of those free
Yeah,
days?
do one of those free days. So I get to just backtracking a little bit. So I decided to go and do hotel and restaurant management. I pick Oxford because it's kind of a melting pot of cultures. It's not too far from my hometown. It's about 2 hours away. I visit it. It's a pretty cool city. It's a very cool city. If I ever move back, that would probably be one of my potential choices. So once I'm there, obviously you're going to school every day, but you obviously need to work. So I was picking up jobs here and there, working in kitchens. Um, Obviously found the best restaurant I could in the area because for me that was the thing. Like you go big or you go home. Like it doesn't make sense to if you're serious about what you're doing, it doesn't make sense to apply to the like a run of the mill place. Why would you do that? If you want to excel in your craft, you want to be great and you want to do better at it, you would just go to the best place. So same thing. Went there, knock on the door. I'm looking for work. I want to work. I'm studying. I'm looking for weekends. What do you got? Yeah, we got a weekend spot. Come in, stash this day. Go do the free day. All right, we could see some potential in you. You're hired. See you tomorrow, 7 a.m., 9 a.m., whatever it was. So that place I was working was called G's, and it is still there. It was an old historical Victorian greenhouse that they had turned into a restaurant. So you sat in actually this old white cast iron greenhouse. On the front was the restaurant, in the back was the kitchen. We had gardens in the back where we grew vegetables, herbs. And in England, it's very different than out here. Like you would have farmers just like turn up and knock on the kitchen door. Fishermen, I got a case of squid. You guys do anything with it? You want to buy it? Okay, cash. You got a full case of beautiful squid. I got 2 pheasants. I got a brace of pheasants. I got woodcock. I got partridge. Whatever you want. And so it was very much a farm to table place. Got cooking there. During that time, obviously studying. Um, One of our Christmas trips was to go up and eat at Gordon Ramsay at Royal Hospital Road, which then was his flagship.
That's the name of the place?
Yeah, Royal Hospital Road Restaurant Gordon Ramsay. So that was his flagship 3 Michelin star restaurant. We went up there to eat and life changing. This was before the TV. He'd only done Ramsay's Boiling Point up to that point, where it was like him opening that restaurant and they recorded it. It was like a 3-part series. You watch it now and you're like, holy shit, how did anyone get away with that? Like it's brutal. It's really brutal to watch. So we go up and we eat. Gordon's there, comes out to the table talking to us. While we're there doing this, the best restaurant in the world awards are going on. So it's like this perfect storm that's kind of like, I guess, kind of like honing my future, basically. So I'm sat on this table. Thomas Keller is sat on this table with his head chef at the time. There's a bunch of other chefs sat all around. It was just perfect timing. So Gordon comes out, he sees us, we meet him. Thomas Keller's there, no one knows who he is. I've been doing my background reading, like time off from like restaurant work, and in between college, I would be at the local bookstore, which I think was like a Borders we had in England. I don't know if you guys have Borders out here.
We did. Are there still Borders?
No.
No, we had it for a while though.
Yeah, so I go into the Borders, I'd sit in the cookbook section. I couldn't afford cookbooks, but I would read through, I would see what was new coming out. French Laundry cookbooks there, so I know who Thomas Keller is. So I wait for them to about to leave. I go up, I introduce myself, Chef Keller, a big fan, fanboyed it. Hey, admirer of your work, yada yada yada. Once that's squared away, I got this idea. I'm gonna go and work for Gordon. So I go back into the kitchen the next week. I talk to the chef. I said, "Hey, I'm gonna try and get a job for Gordon." He's like, "How the hell are you gonna do that?" I said, "Well, I'm gonna ride the bus from Oxford to London." He's like, "You're crazy. You're nuts. You're never gonna be able to do that. It's like an hour and 45, 2 hour journey." He's like, 2 hours with traffic, hour and 30 if you're lucky. I go, "I think I'm gonna do it." And he's like, "Yeah, no way." He goes, "Listen, go for it." All right. So I take the train up. I go up to London and knock on the kitchen door, and got the resume with me and everything else.
I love how like just knocking on kitchen doors, whether you're looking for a job or trying to sell squid, it's just the move.
That was the move back then. That was literally it. Now
Uh,
you go through, you online apply and everything else. But back in the day, you're just knocking on kitchen doors.
love that.
I'm here to see the chef. Chef comes to the door. He said, "All right." He said, "Reach out to this girl." Okay, I reach out to the girl. She says, "Okay, be there tomorrow at 9 a.m." All right, great. Turn up. And then I'm working for Gordon, and it's like going from minor leagues where you're like the best there is to like major leagues where you're just like nothing. It was insanity.
What's the biggest for a chef? What's the biggest change there where you feel like, oh Jesus?
You're just looking at the ingredients being used. You're looking at the speed people are working, the
Yeah.
efficiency, the techniques, the style of service, the level that you're working at. Everything just goes from like you think you've hit the peak. You think you're doing the best thing. You're the big fish in this small pond. Then you go to the big pond and you're like, holy shit. Like you're looking at stuff and you're like, how would they have I have no idea how to do that. What is this? What's that ingredient? What like it's just you're like up here. So it's just like next level. You're going in and you're working at a place where it's like, all right, we have 30 booked for lunch, we got a busy Saturday night, 120. You go into this place, they're like, all right, we have 150 on the books for lunch. We got 270 on the books for dinner. And you're working at this level that is like light years above what you've been working at. And it's just like, whoa. And it's not like,
Are you cooking at this point, or are
no,
you?
this is cooking. Yeah.
Is there an equivalent of? Oh, you'll start here. You'll start in this thing in the
So
kitchen.
yeah, when you come in, it's a French brigade system. So you come in and you enter at a commis chef level, which is like a prep chef over here. Then from there, you have a demi chef de partie, which is like a step above that. And you have a chef de partie, where you're the demi chef, I should say, is you're kind of you hold a higher rank among the commies. You have a little bit more management. The chef de partie is you're overseeing the station and overseeing the commis chefs. And then you have the junior sous chef. And there's a bunch of other ones dotted in, but this is kind of the main breakdown. Junior sous chef, who oversees probably a couple of stations and the employees on those stations. Then a sous chef, who oversees all of the junior sous chefs and all of their stations. And then you have the chef de cuisine, who oversees the entire kitchen, all the sous chefs and everyone else. And then an executive chef above that.
I think people would be surprised to sort of learn there are so many
Oh, you have chef.
levels.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we'd all agree and assume that there's different skill levels needed for
Mm-hmm.
different things. It's like maybe the person finishing the steak isn't the same one chopping onions that
Absolutely.
afternoon, but just the amount of levels. And does everyone start, at least in that world that you were introduced, does everyone start at the bottom rung there, so to speak, the
Yeah,
beginning?
the
The
funny
beginning.
thing is, when you go into a Michelin level kitchen, really, unless you have other Michelin experience, and Michelin is a guide system. It's been around for hundreds of years. It was originally designed to sell more tires because they were a tire company. So he created a food guide. So 1 star is like good. Um, if you're in the area, it's worth a visit. Two, you know, if you're close by, make an effort to go there. Three is like you should change your plans and go and visit this place because it's life changing. Is kind of how that boils down. So 3 stars back in the day was like the pinnacle. of gastronomy, of cuisine. Place I was working at had one, was going for two. And even at that 1 star level, for the amount of covers, the amount of reservations we were doing was intense.
That's still a deal, right? 1 star is still
Oh yeah, it's a
like
big deal.
you're doing a good job,
You're doing a really good job, yeah.
and people are happy.
Mm-hmm.
Customers.
Customers are happy, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But just going back to that, when you go into that, if you don't come in with any Michelin star level experience, you're just coming from, like I was, like one of the best restaurants in my town, you're coming at the bottom. I had guys working with me that went from making, here's the funny thing, they went from back in the day then, they were like, I was making 40,000 a year. It's like, it's a huge sum of money. They would come in and they'd be working as a commis chef, and we were making 12,500 pounds a year, 100 to 120 hours a week, which if you break down the hourly, I think it's like two and change an hour, $2 and something an hour.
Ooh.
But there was a lot of people that sacrificed that. But on the other hand, there was a lot of people that didn't make the cut. And it was very, very militarized environment. It was very kind of, the kind of treated it as like a special forces training. If you didn't make the grade, like you would have people just leave halfway through service, just take off their apron, fold it up, be like, I'm going to the bathroom, never come back.
I've worked in a few kitchens, and I remember a couple head chefs or executive chefs, and it was definitely militant. And it was some of the, like, I was surprised at how aggressive a kitchen could be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like fights, people getting berated. I've seen pans get thrown. I think a lot of that was fueled maybe from cocaine too, with some of those guys. Like, so there was like
Definitely.
a whole sub scene in the kitchens that I saw at least,
Absolutely.
and so that's definitely not helping anyone relax. But I was surprised. Like, I'm like, it can get really fucking violent back here.
It can
And I
escalate
remember
very quickly.
when the kitchen shows, cooking shows really took off here. I don't know exactly what year that was, but when everyone around here started like watching kitchen shows, and I remember seeing some of them, they were so cordial and so nice. And I was telling my wife, I'm like, that's not, I didn't meet any chefs like that. Like, these are like actors, I think. I'm sure they're like all serious chefs, but like
It
they
was,
put
yeah.
down that persona, I think.
It was funny because when I first started working for Gordon, um, he just started getting into cooking. So whenever he would do any segment or anything like that, they would have a whole section of the kitchen. Probably, he would be working on a desk like this, or a section of the kitchen about this big. So everything would be completely lit, microphones, like the whole nine. It was in its infancy. Like he was just kind of getting into television then, but the entire rest of the kitchen had to work in total darkness. So they would kill the lights on everything. They would kill the fans. Like the kitchen's getting hotter. Like you're working in the dark trying to do these precision knife cuts and stuff. And then you basically have full floodlit Gordon in the corner and he's doing his thing. And everyone's like, shh, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, yeah.
They're recording.
The king.
But it was, yeah, it was, listen, it was one of the toughest environments I've worked in. But I wouldn't take it back. I learned the most there. It was like going to a free cooking school, for the year I was there. Learned a lot, still have a lot of respect for Gordon and everything that he's accomplished. But it was, things have definitely changed since then. I remember one night I was in the walk-in, and one of his lieutenants, you had to you would deep clean every night. Like the kitchen was spotless, and we cleaned the whole fridge, and the fridge is perfect. I swept it, it's mopped and everything else. You had to check that the plastic wrap on the containers was perfectly taut. So if it was wrinkled or it was slightly dipped, it wasn't acceptable. So everything had to be perfectly taut and labeled. So I go through, it's swept, it's clean, it's mopped. All right, I'm good. I check in, everything's tight. All right, good. I go, chef, ready to be, inspected before I can leave. Comes in, looks around. I'm like smiling, like happy, like that. He sees I'm super happy. That was the worst move ever. Goes to a shelf, pulls off a container, fingers through the plastic, pulls
Wrinkled
it
as
off,
hell.
wrinkles it, throws it on the floor, goes, "You missed your spot." Do the whole thing again. And this was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, at this point, just exhausted. And it was just like, there was times when you were like, what am I doing? But then you'd sleep on it and you'd be like, you know what? They're seeing who can take it and carry on and who's just going to be the person. Because they were training up teams because he was opening so many restaurants. He was training these future leaders. So it was really had that mentality of pushing you to your breaking point and see who could just continue on and push past that.
Right.
And
So it's
see
less
the
about
people
your
that would fall.
technical ability, more about your emotional
Both,
intelligence and
both,
capacity.
both of those things like tied into one.
Yeah.
And especially if they saw that you had a skill set and that you could do things well, then you would get ridden harder than the others because then they're going to see how far they can push you kind of mentally and see if you can do both things, have both things come at the same time.
Fucking diabolical. However, I can see, I mean, before it was like, oh, so, Nicholas, is just taking a chance on this guy. Well, clearly not. You're coming from a pedigree and from being able to handle certain things, be able to take certain things. So from there to now you're working in Monmouth County.
Yes, sir.
Now you're in where we're based here. You're at Nicholas, which is the highest rated place in town at the time. Tell me about the food scene here in our area, Monmouth County, Jersey Shore. What stood out once you started cooking in these kitchens? And it doesn't just have to be Nicholas. I know you have a good amount of experience in area in restaurants around Asbury Park included. With the Smith Group and some of their restaurants. What's particular to this area?
So it's interesting when I first started working at Nicholas, there was like a few other places in Jersey, but they were really kind of north. Like we almost had that monopoly on this kind of area. I just mean by we were always pushing the envelope. We were always trying new things. And you had your classic kind of restaurants here, but a lot of it was your like, your pasta joints, your fried fish joints, like those kind of classic shore places where people have been going forever. And, a lot of the people that came through my kitchen there that I trained have gone on to open places, have gone on to kind of keep pushing that envelope. And I don't want to say I was 100% responsible for the food scene in this area, but I would definitely say I had an influence on it, on where it is now and places that are kind of opening up and doing stuff that really kind of pushed the boundaries where people had to be like, oh, they're doing this. I would see things that we would put on the menu, and then 4 weeks later, it would be like on 4 restaurant menus.
That's the best compliment.
It's the best compliment.
And by the time that happens, I assume you're already on to the next concept.
Well, I already took it off the menu, and I got something going on there.
So maybe our area for a while suffered from tradition.
It definitely did.
Like, grandma's marinara sauce.
Yeah, it was definitely
like it traditional shore.
I think you had these people. I think there was somewhat complacency. Like people like we've been doing this way for so long, and people come. So why do we need to change? Which is fine. I mean, there are places that have been doing the same thing and they're still very successful. I do think not that you have to change in this industry, but I do think you have to evolve with it. And you can do the same stuff, but you've always got to be trying to make it better, trying to evolve that and trying to, make it more approachable, because your clientele that is this old, this isn't always going to be your clientele. This down here, these younger people are. So how do you bridge that gap where you can maintain and be doing what you're doing, but make it appealing to these younger people as well as these 80-year-old people that have been coming? So there was there wasn't really a food scene. And I feel like, and I don't,
even though there were tons of restaurants.
there were tons of
And
restaurants.
everyone goes out and they're coming down the shore, whether they're
Hmm.
traveling from New York or North Jersey or from out of town, like yourself,
I think
out of the country.
it was those classics. I think there were small people kind of blips on the radar that were trying to do stuff, myself included. And I think what happened is those blips kind of grew and expanded. And then suddenly the food scene here really kind of came up. And then you saw different style of cuisines kind of being mainstreamed. And then you saw different people kind of coming into the forefront. And then you saw restaurateurs open in multiple places in different styles. It all kind of just started growing, 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 growing.
What
And
year is this approximately? Where are we at on the
where are we at
timeline?
in the timeline? I gotta think. How was it? 2000, like 2000. I was gonna say the tens, the 11s. Yeah, like 2010,
Yeah,
2011, 2012,
yeah.
like around there. You know, I had, I had a lot of people that worked underneath me that went off and they started doing other stuff in the area, taking over head chef positions here. This is a huge compliment. It's great to hear that. And then those people branched off and opened their own places. Now those places are like some of the best places to eat. There are a lot of the places I go to eat because I know that their passion and their ability and what they do and everything else. But I think it was, like I said, not that we didn't have a food scene. I just think it was there's nothing that stood out. It was very kind of run of the mill,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, it, nothing separated anything for anyone else. You get a pasta and red sauce here, it's the same as here, it's the same as here, it's the same as here. It's really wherever you just, you know, oh, I like the decor and the people serving it better here. It was just nothing really kind of popped or jumped out. Like I said, there were certain places where people were doing stuff that did. I mean, you had what was the one up north? Craig Shelton was up at the Ryland Inn. That was like one place. You look at people that came through his kitchen. Scott Anderson was one. Then he opened Elements in Princeton, and then Princeton started to kind of grow from that. And that so there was all these kind of, it wasn't really a collective scene, I guess is what I'm saying. Like
Yeah,
where you
yeah.
had these, I can tell you really, I guess in probably the majority of my years at Nicholas, any other kind of chefs in the area that I had a rapport with. Now I can probably tell you, I know like 80% of the people running restaurants in Monmouth County.
Amazing.
But that's something that evolved. It grew out of this. And I think it was because, it everyone kind of started pushing each other. Then you had social media came into things, and that really kind of blew stuff up. And then TV chefs that got bigger and everything. So there's this whole kind of accumulation at that time where everything just
Yeah,
started to
yeah.
erupt.
What is it about this area? I mean, I'm sure every place has a different feel. Now you can cook maybe the same way in any place, but your clientele is going to be different in different
Hmm.
places. So be it England, be it North Jersey, here at the shore, here in Monmouth County, what are the clientele and what are they looking for here in your estimation? Or do you feel like it's maybe conversely, it's your job to educate people on what they should be liking?
I don't think you should tell people what they should be liking. I think you can suggest it. You can suggest things, you can put things on a menu that, you can have multiple people taste it. They tell you it's good. It goes onto a menu and, you're enrolling your service staff. You're enrolling them to tell this story about the cuisine, to present that to the customers and get them enrolled in the idea and then they bite on it. I think, um, you have now more so than ever, you have a lot of people that are working in the city, dining in the city. They have higher expectations of what food should be.
Hmm.
I think that was a real kick in the ass of restaurants here where it was like, holy shit, we got a lot more people now that are seeing this New York food scene, which you're talking like, like those early 2000s and stuff like that. The New York food scene was starting to climb as well.
Okay.
So on the back of that, you have a lot of people from New Jersey who are buying into this and they're eating there. Then holy shit, there's all these cuisines. This food is really good, and they're coming back to Jersey and they're starting to try and seek out places that are like doing that. I used to get a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't get food this good unless I'm in Manhattan." That's a huge compliment. That's great. But I think now more so than ever, I think people are seeing that the bar has been raised. And I think, you have people around here that are fairly wealthy. They're willing to spend money. I'm seeing more and more of that. You have certain places that are dialed into kind of certain areas. And then you have also restaurants where people like, they want to go for great food and they don't mind dropping money for it and they'll steer in that direction. But I think there's more of an awareness now in this area for quality food, for quality experience, for experiencing true hospitality, which is a dying art these days.
How so? And I asked that, like, I've been to 1,000 restaurants. You guys have been to, we've all been to 1,000
Mm-hmm.
restaurants. It's hard to nail down patterns in service because it seems erratic.
It does seem erratic, but there's manners, there's being polite, there's way to converse with the customer,
Totally.
there's ways to go above and beyond. That doesn't cost any extra money, but it's just making that customer feel special. You're you're providing a service, you're not selling someone a product. That's the difference. Like as a server, you're not an order taker. If you're a server, you're serving a product. You're creating an experience for that guest. You want them to feel special. They're getting this food on the back of having this beautiful food in this great environment. They're having this special experience. All those things have to work together. You don't just go up, hey, how are you? This. Okay, great. Stick it on the table. Where's the hospitality in that? There's just none. So, and the more and more I see of that, more and more I see, you see like, oh, this is too much trouble. Or, you know, even as people are, people leaving a place, oh, thank you so much. Open the door for people. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Like little things, all of that stuff's kind of disappearing.
You're talking about basic manners. So,
Yeah, yeah, basics.
just inherent basic manners and just going above and beyond for somebody.
Just giving,
Strangers.
yeah, giving people this experience. Make the customer feel special when they're with you. Don't make them feel like a burden. Like they're coming out, they're spending money. They want to come out to have this experience, to experience this hospitality, to be made to feel special. And more, that is disappearing. I can tell you places where I've been, where I've gone in. I sat at the bar, table off the bar. I didn't get greeted by the host when I walked in. She was on her cell phone. I said, could we sit next to the bar? Yeah, find your seat. Okay. Went and sat. 20 minutes. Bartender, I'm like smiling, like, you know, doing the old finger in the air thing. Bartender smiling back. No one came to the table in 20 minutes. So I'm with my daughter. I said, should we just call this and just go somewhere else? She's like, yeah, I'm hungry. I said, okay. So we're going to leave. And I say to the host, I say, hey, just so you know, no one came to the table. We're going to leave. She said, oh, okay. Went back to her phone. Case in point, like, I will not go back there. I wasn't one. I just felt like I was ignored. The experience was terrible. You know, no one came over to try and put that right. Like, as a host, she should have said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Here, should have been something done." And I'm not looking for free things or anything like that, but
Right,
just
right.
like that trying to win you back. Oh my, I can't believe that happened. Here, come with me. Let's get you set. Let me get you a couple of drinks. I'll take care of whatever it is. But just that nonchalant, and that's where hospitality is just.
Yeah, well, that's the difference too between hey, we're beat for tonight, but I might try this place again down the
Mm-hmm.
road, maybe. Or there's no freaking chance we're ever going there, and that I'm going to recommend anyone goes there. And that's a serious line for a business because people also talk. And you mentioned with social media,
100%.
like everyone you know is going to know that you had some bummer experience. Yeah.
I can't tell you the amount of people who say to me, "Oh, where's a good place to go to eat?" Or they'll be like, and I don't bash places, That's not me. I'm not gonna bash a place, but if someone says, "Oh, I'm going here," they'll go, "What do you think?" Well, I'm not gonna lie. I'll turn around and say, "I didn't have a great experience there, but by all means, give it a shot." Maybe I went on an off night.
Yeah. Being
I know the industry. I know it's tough and everything else. I'm always willing to give the benefit of the doubt. And there's places I've been back to give them the benefit of the doubt, and the same thing has happened again. Now, that being said, we have some great restaurants in this area now, too, that I consistently go back to. I think they're fucking phenomenal. Um, so it's not all bad, but I think we could do a better job as an industry in this area to get back to the ways of hospitality and kind of relearning it a little bit. And I think you're going to retain more customers. You'll have more customers come in the door. Your restaurant is going to be busier, and that tied in with trying to put out the best food you can. Your restaurant's going to go from doing this to this.
for sure. And there's some other things too. I think restaurants can do, and I see it happening around here. And I know it's a part of the industry that you're heavily invested in, at least personally, and I'm sure professionally as well. Local ingredients,
100%.
And seasonal
Yes.
ingredients. Can you talk a little bit about our area here? And I know very little about this. However, I think it's a great story. If I'm at a restaurant with my wife, they'll talk about, oh, this is local. This was grown here.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, oh, we don't have that dish you had last time. Oh, but here's why. Because those ingredients aren't in season.
Yeah.
Oh, now I don't feel like it's a bummer anymore. Now I'm like, oh, I won last time I was here, and I can't wait to come back next spring when said root vegetable is growing. So it turns it into a story. What's the story of this area, local food and seasonal food? Because I've gardened like this much. So I'm not strong in that
That's
department.
probably this much more than most people.
Maybe that's true.
Yeah,
that's probably true. But and it's not hard. I realized when I was doing it, this is not challenging at all. And the reason I'm not doing it anymore is just some laziness.
But you can even be bad at it, and you can still yield results.
No doubt.
Like you don't have to be like super green fingers. Like you can literally
no. You can half-ass it and still get some yield, and then you're serving other animals that are running around eating up your less than good yield. So what's good for this area at the Jersey Shore? What do you like to get from here, and when do you like to get it?
So, I mean, we're called the Garden State for a reason, because we have great produce here, like really great stuff. You start in springtime. Springtime, you have wild garlic and ramps. Those are all, you have giant areas where you can go out and forage that. It's delicious. And it's all there. Foraging is another big thing in New Jersey that people don't get.
And to be clear, what we mean is you're going in legally. You're not on someone's property.
No. You're
not paying to get
land.
the bag. You're just, you can pick stuff.
You can pick stuff.
Okay, I just want to be clear.
If you know what you're looking for. We have a lot of mushrooms. I wouldn't recommend people picking wild mushrooms unless you know 100% what you're doing.
Because some are poisonous?
Some are poisonous, and you have thousands of varieties of mushrooms. Some look very similar to the other ones.
Yeah.
But if you know what you're doing, we have chicken of the woods. We have wild oyster mushrooms. We have maitake mushrooms. We have morels. There's a lot of mushrooms here in this area, especially when you get down to like the Pine Barrens too. When if you want to travel a little bit, with those forests down there, lend themselves very well to wild mushroom foraging.
Okay.
Up here, like I said, you have wild garlic, wild watercress. You have your ramps. There's a lot of stuff that you can find here: elderflowers, black locust blossoms, all these different things. But as far as like seasons and gardening here, like it starts in spring. Like you can plant garlic in October, November, September. You can overwinter it, and in the springtime in your garden, you can have spring garlic growing up. So you can, right off that jump point, you got garlic coming in. You have local asparagus. You have peas of all different varieties. There's all these places that sell locally, and you have to hunt it down a little bit. But if you find these places, you can get this incredible, incredible seasonal product. And then you're going into From spring, you're going into summer. Jersey heirlooms, Jersey tomatoes. It doesn't get any better. Really, they're fire.
They're great.
So you go through there, and then you go out into fall, and then you're looking at fruit festival, and it just like you can really like. There's places where you can get all this. You just got to search it out. Then you have chicken farms around here. You have Goffle Farms Poultry. That's a little bit of a drive, but you're near Princeton. But you got like you can go down there. You have chickens, turkeys, ducks. You have fishing on the Jersey Shore, which is nearly open 12 months of the year.
Do you fish?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So what are we pulling out of the waters here? And is it all to your level of quality? Is every fish that we're pulling out of here
I think it comes down to
cookable?
yes, it's 100% cookable.
Okay.
I think you have a lot of people that don't necessarily know what to do with that product and need to be educated a little bit on that product. But if you're pulling fish, we went out last Friday. We went out at like 6 a.m. We fished blackfish. Beautiful fish. Bought it back, cleaned it, turned it into sashimi, lightly cured it. But you could fry that fish. You have, let's go through the list. New Jersey, lobsters, crabs, blue crabs, soft shell crabs, fluke, black sea bass, striped bass, sea robins, bluefish, blackfish. You can get cod. You can get squid. You can get bluefin tuna, yellowfin tuna, big eye tuna, swordfish, lingcod. I'm probably missing some, but you get my point. Pufferfish, croakers. The list is endless. Skate, scallops. Like all this is local. People don't get that.
Are you is are these primarily fished from the shoreline or in boats?
You can do both.
Because I've seen both.
You can do both. I mean, you can fish fluke from the shore. You can crab from the shore. You can get striped bass from the shore. You can get albacore tuna from the shore when it's in season. You can get blackfish from the shore. Clams. You can clam. You got hundreds of clams here. Get those from the shore.
Oh, right down the street. When it's low tide, in the inlet there, right off of Belmar Boulevard here in Wall Township, where we're shooting today. When it's low tide, half the time I'll see someone out there with some big waders, and I'm not sure how they're digging for them or how they sift.
Rake them.
Is that what it is? Is that what's
Yeah.
going on? Because I'm usually driving, so I can't like stop in the middle of the road or.
You have like a basket with a rake on it. You'll see a lot of these guys in the bay by Sandy Hook and stuff like that. They basically put the basket down and they push it up and down. And what they're doing is they're raking underneath the clams. They shake the basket and they bring it up and then they grate the clams.
About how far down are they on average?
They sit kind of just under the surface. Some are a little deeper. But you could be in, I think it's like 20 to 50 foot of water potentially before you hit the bottom to get the clams.
Oh,
So
wow.
they have these huge telescopic poles. So these guys are like, their arms are like huge and they'll just like, be rocking out these clams and then they grade them and they got to be like, I think it's 1.5 inches. I'm pretty sure it's that.
And those types of clams, those ones that I might see getting pulled out right down the street, what are they good for? You're not eating those raw, right?
It depends. Usually those ones, they're the bigger clams, but you can get like middle necks, the slightly larger ones. You can do middle necks on the half shell. I mean, I would probably purge them, which means you're going to put them into a container of seawater and you're going to put like cornmeal on the top of the water, float it. What the clams will do is they'll eat the cornmeal and they burp out all the sand that's in them. So what'll happen is when you cook the clams, if you open them, when they open up, they won't have any sand, but they might have a little cornmeal in there, which is already cooked from the steaming process. So you don't get sandy clam.
Oh, that's funny. So they're digesting the cornmeal because they think it's sand?
They have sand in like they're taking in sand because they're sucking.
Right.
And yeah, they digest the cornmeal and push the sand out.
Is that still just because I don't
They're
personally
they're like burping it outside.
Yeah, I don't personally have a problem if I go out and get some like clam dish or something. and if it's a little crunchy, I kind of don't mind it. I feel like that's par for the course, or is that bad preparation?
That's kind of.
Should I mind that?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's yeah. I would say
Oh,
yeah.
I have my team here is
I mean,
everyone's
yeah,
giving me the same look. Like, come on, dude.
it's you're paying good money for this.
I thought that was part of the experience.
That's like when you eat.
Fucking Jersey Shore sand, bro. Crunchy.
It's like when you eat lobster and you're like, why is the tail crunchy? That's then they didn't take the shit sack out of it.
Oh, I didn't know about the crunchy shit stack and all
Shit sack. They have a poop line that runs through the whole tail. If you prep them correctly, if you take a lobster tail, you take the middle fin on the back and you can pop it and twist it. When you take the lobster tail off, you can pull it and the whole intestine will come out. There's guys who just leave that on. When you go to some restaurants, you crack it open and you're eating it and you're like, why is this crunchy? Oh, you're eating lobster shit.
Yeah, but there's some dudes out there like me who are like, I'm getting the real shit here, which is actually correct.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as like seasonality and what we have here, so many options. Like,
is there hunting in this area?
There's a lot of hunting. I hunt. Hunting in New Jersey is, I believe last time I checked, we are a minority, so to speak. I think it accounts for 2% of the entire population of New Jersey, people that hunt.
Okay.
There's a lot of white-tailed deer. What do I hunt? Squirrels, rabbits, deer, geese, ducks. I'm missing some. Oh, pheasants, quail, partridge, woodcock.
What are those guys I see out? And so I'll take my bike and I'll be maybe in Howell area.
Mm-hmm.
I just call them wild turkeys. What are those guys that are running? They're tall and they look aggressive.
Yeah, there's 2 seasons for those. One in the spring.
Are they turkeys?
One in the fall. Yeah, wild turkeys.
Okay, that's what they're called.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you can hunt those. You need a special permit. So the great thing about, listen, I think hunting gets a bad rap. I think there's a lot of bad apples that spoil it for the bunch. For me, I hunt to fill my freezer. So what I'll do is I try and eat a lot of wild game and things throughout the year. When it comes to hunting season, obviously if I can get out, if I have the time, I try to when I can. I'll replenish stuff that goes in my freezer. It's the same with fish. Like we'll go fishing throughout the year, and as we catch, I'll fabricate all that. I'll break it down. I cryovac it into individual packages.
Do you have to do that if you're planning on freezing for long periods of time? Do you kind of have to vacuum seal it?
No, you don't. You can actually get really good results with freezer paper and plastic wrap too.
What's freezer paper?
Freezer paper is like almost like a thicker kind of butcher paper, which has a shiny side on it. So when you go to like the butcher shop and you go,
it'll seal out moisture pretty good or keep moisture in.
It keeps everything in. So when you go, you go to like a food town, you get like a piece of meat, they wrap it in the paper.
Yeah.
And then they tag it. And then
it's got the waxier side.
Right.
And the one is a little more papery.
So the freezer paper is very similar to that. I'm sure there's some minor nuances. But if you take your meat actually lasts better if you do it this way. So I've heard. I still cryovac everything because I have great results and I don't really have any problems with freezer burning or anything.
Okay.
But if you use that freezer paper, you roll it up really tight, and then you wrap that on top with plastic wrap, and then your label, your date, what species it is, and stack it in your freezer. You can get, I think, probably like 12, 24 months.
Amazing. You mentioned squirrel. You eat squirrel?
Yes, sir.
I've never heard of that. Is that a thing? You guys are shaking your heads. You guys, it's
like
the outlier in this conversation.
I know people hunt it.
Yeah. No, the people hunt it, but it's not so much hip here. It's definitely a European thing, and it's definitely a kind of southern state thing.
So our southern states.
But in England, we hunt squirrels. We hunt rabbits, obviously. Here, you can hunt squirrels. Not many people do it, but it's very similar to rabbit.
Okay.
Has a kind of similar structure. Like it kind of looks like a small rabbit.
Sure. I see.
You kind of put it into quarters. You can braise it into stews. You can fry it like fried chicken. It's just something else that's like readily available.
Oh, there are certainly enough squirrels in this area. Like they're out of control in this area. Maybe I'm gonna start hunting some squirrel.
And for me, I think, you know,
What do
for
you
me,
hunt the
for
squirrel
what's that?
What do you hunt the squirrel with?
You
Oh yeah,
hunt
good
them
question. Yeah.
with, so you can shoot them with shotgun predominantly, but you can also shoot them with you guys should shoot them with an air rifle. Just has to be, it can't be under a certain caliber, and it has to be a certain power. But actually, the air rifle's better because you can kind of sit there and it's quieter, so you just boop, boop. But
Oh.
You have to worry about like with wild game, like like how do you know if it's like excuse me, like a healthy animal? You know what I mean?
so it's a good point. So when you're breaking down the animal, actually when you're kind of gutting the animal, so I'm a believer in using everything on the, or as much as I can on the animal. So like with deer, I'll even, and some people would find this gross, but what I'll do is I'll, when you gut the animal, you're taking it up the front and you're opening it up
Yeah.
because you want to remove the guts out, right?
Right.
So even the esophagus that runs down, I'd say take that and I'll dry that in the oven, and it's a great dog treat. I'll use
That or a flute.
or they
You could
actually,
probably
you know
make a
what's
musical
funny?
instrument.
They make the same noises when it grunt, when it like ooh ooh.
Dude, hook
Like,
me up with
ooh, ooh.
hook me up with a trach one time.
All right, I'll send you one over.
Try and turn that into something. Always looking for new sounds.
Like
But when you're taking the guts out and everything else, you really kind of just, you're looking at everything. You're looking at the liver. If the liver's clean, you're looking for if there's any spots or marks on it. Like if that liver like isn't pristine when I take it out, like I'm not gonna eat it. With regards to meat, like when it comes to rabbits, you can kind of see if it has like, if it has parasites, it's very visible. It's the same with fish, right? So swordfish has more parasites than probably any fucking fish you'll ever see in your life. And you know, cod has parasites, has little parasitic worms. I got served one in a restaurant in New Jersey on my plate.
In the cod.
In the cod. It's difficult to like, it's a tough one, right? I get it that it happens. But you kind of should, like, you know, take a look at it and kind of be aware. Usually in the bellies of the fish, doesn't do anything for you. You could eat one. It's not going to eat your stomach acid is gonna destroy it.
Okay,
Like,
so it won't become a parasite on
no,
you.
no, no. But everything has parasites. Just the nature of the game.
Sure.
But when it comes to swordfish is like, if I've seen some fucking horror stories.
So is that like our main tidbit for today? Maybe lay off the swordfish unless you know who caught it and trust their filleting skills.
I mean, you're probably never gonna see it. I mean, I'm sure they take it out, but if you go to a fish market, you'll see some shit with a swordfish. You'll tumors and like worms.
These tumors, what are they fucking smoking cigs out there? Like what's going
Yeah,
on?
I'm telling you, it's like they're just, there's parasites or deep dwelling fish. It's just,
Well, it's interesting. My family, the four of us and my mother, we were just in Italy and we were in Florence
nice.
and we were doing a cooking class. So we were making pasta, we made tiramisu, we made a ragu,
It's awesome.
we made ravioli. Yeah, it was fucking amazing. And before we did that, we went and got all the ingredients. So we went to it's the biggest market in Florence. So it's massive. I'm not really sure where it ended or how many floors there were, but it's everything. And the main takeaway in the fish section, which I never considered and made perfect sense the second I did it, they're like, well, you know, the smaller the fish, the cleaner it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just simply taking in. Well, you could probably explain it much better than me, but that was the biggest takeaway. They're like, if you have to choose, sometimes just choose a smaller fish, and you automatically, by natural process, will probably have a cleaner fish. You want to explain that for our audience?
So,
And is that correct? Was I getting correct information?
for a bigger animal is not necessarily better eating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's like older, it's been, it's been out there longer.
And it's processed more things because of its size. It can process more things.
and it's just, it's mated, it's lost a lot of nutrients. Like there's so many things that go into it, but usually what you find is you'll find with a bigger fish, you can eat it and it'll be good, but it's like with striped bass, right? And now the size limit has really come down because we're really trying to like save this species. Um, so right now your slot limit on a striped bass is you can catch a fish between 29 and 31 inches. It can't be under and it can't be over.
29 to 31. Okay.
And that's just something that they bought in. But actually, those fish in that slot eat so much better than if you were catching a 38, a 40-inch striped bass. Just has this visual. People, I got this big fish. That's great. Send the big ones back. Let them mate out.
Well,
like, get your picture.
That's just some guy shit, you know?
You're 100% right. It really is. But that factors back into what we were saying about like hunting and fishing kind of has this bad rap that goes with it, right? Because you have a lot of these like weekend warrior like people who just give it a bad name. And I know I've always said that I'm in the few that like really tries to, if I'm going to hunt something, if I'm going to fish something, if I'm going to take something's life, then I'm going to use as much of that as is humanly possible, right? So we were catching dogfish the other day on the boat as a bycatch. So most people just like throw them in the water and they end up floating away. Like it died for no reason. But then they'll say, oh, they destroy the reefs and this and that because they come on and they breed and they wipe everything out. Well, for me, in England, we use dogfish. We call it rock. And it's used for fish and chips. So for me, I'm like, okay, well, I'll take the dogfish home.
Rockfish.
So you have to be careful in this country because rockfish...
I've heard that term. That's why I'm asking.
So rockfish is what they refer to as striped bass down in Delaware area.
All right.
But in England, our term for dogfish is, we call it rock when we put it on a menu. Okay? So you take the fillets off, and, I have a carcass with, I got shark fins on there. Okay? So I save all the shark fins. I put them in a bag in my freezer. And then once I have enough of those shark fins, I'll make a shark fin soup. I'm not harvesting the shark just for the fins. I'm making sure I use as much of that animal as I possibly can. If I'm going to take it, I'm going to utilize it all. The other day, we got one that had eggs inside it. Now, shark eggs look like egg yolks. They have the same feeling as egg yolks. If you crack them, they have a yolk inside. You can actually turn them into an omelet.
Are they about the size of it?
They're about the size. They're about this big. Oh. They're bright yellow. So I use all of that stuff. And the same comes with it, whether it's a rabbit, whether it's a deer, whether it's a squirrel, whether it's... So I got 2 pheasants gifted to me by a friend the other day. So I'll take all those long feathers. I'll use those for craft projects or whatever. Maybe I'll turn them into fletchings for arrows or whatever that is. I take the birds. I hang the birds because it's kind of like dry aging a piece of meat. If you cook a pheasant fresh, you'll eat a fresh pheasant and you'll say, oh, this kind of just tastes like a tough chicken. Well, it's like having a piece of meat. If you slaughter a piece of beef and you eat it straight away, you're going to say, oh, this is a tough-ass piece of beef. I don't really understand. You want to hang it. You want it to relax. You want it to start to, like, loosen. And then you get a little age on it. Let it kind of bleed out. Let it, the whole thing do its thing. Let it, the water in it evaporate. It's going to concentrate the flavor. So I do that. I pluck the pheasants out. I take the legs. The legs I'm going to confit in duck fat. I'll use those, pull that meat, maybe put that into whatever it is, a pasta sauce or something like that. I have the breasts. Those are separate. And then if I pluck the whole thing out, I do this anyway, but I'll take the carcasses and I'll make pheasant stock with that. So really my only waste on that bird is the majority of the feathers, which if I really wanted to get technical, I could go through that whole road of like cleaning them, steaming them, and stuffing them into something, but I don't have the time for that, and I kind of do feel like I use more of that bird than most people, considering most guys just open it up, take the breasts out, and throw the rest away.
That's amazing. I know we don't have a lot of time left. I want to talk a little bit about, we were also talking about sourcing and seasonal and clean. and
Mm-hmm.
you're the director of culinary operations. Am I saying it right?
You
Director
are.
of
You are.
culinary
Yes.
operations for Eat Clean Bro,
Yes,
which is
sir.
a company that I've seen. I think they do a great job of marketing. So I've seen their stuff everywhere.
We do get our stuff out there. Yeah, we're a
So
fresh.
tell us about Eat Clean Bro. And I know that started right in this county. That's a
Oh,
Monmouth
absolutely.
County
Yes, sir.
freehold, if I remember our
Freehold. Yeah.
conversation correctly.
So Jamie Giovinazzo, great guy, my boss, great friend, also great human being, biggest heart of anyone I know. Started that company with $300 in freehold. He was working as a personal trainer, and a lot of people were coming up to him like, "Yo, where do you get these meals? Where do you get these meals?" He's like, "I make these meals. Oh, can you make meals for me?" Sure. So he starts doing it out of his friend's house in his kitchen. Makes these meals. Long story short, we are now a $20+ million company. We operate out of Eatontown. We are a fresh, never frozen, chef prepared meal company, overseen by obviously chefs and registered dietitian. All of our meals are clean. They contain all of the macronutrients you need. We
Yeah,
don't.
I want to stop you right there. So can you just define? I've thrown this word around. I guess I never really thought about what does it mean. What do we mean by clean?
Clean. So for us as a company, we're not adding any unnatural sugars. We're not adding any processed sugars. We're not we go out of our way to source ingredients that don't contain all of the preservatives and bullshit that are in kind of regular everyday stuff.
Yeah.
So let's take an example, right? If you go with like so we do some of our stuff we do grab and go too. So we do sandwiches, we do salads, we do wraps. So our wraps, we have a turkey in our wraps. So most turkeys that you get, boar's head is probably the cleanest, but they also have preservatives in there. They have sulfites, all different things like that.
And that's to preserve it so it lasts longer. Is that really the main reason for most
some of its
things
color
that are introduced?
some of its color as well. Like if you didn't have certain preservatives and things like that in hams and things, your ham's going to brown out. They're going to discolor.
But it wouldn't affect the flavor.
Wouldn't affect the flavor. It's just visually.
So it's a visual.
Comes down to what people want to buy. People eat with these before they eat with this.
Sure.
And it's the story of forever, right?
Yeah.
You can put a plate of food up, it can look like garbage, taste delicious. But if you put that plate with something else side by side, someone's going to choose the one that looks more pretty, regardless if the one that doesn't look pretty tastes better.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's unfortunate. So we take whole turkey, sweetheart turkey breasts, natural turkey breasts. We'll take those, we brine them in-house, then we'll smoke them on our smoker, and then we'll finish them in our ovens, and that's the turkey we use in our sandwiches. So we look at all the ingredients that goes into something, and if there's, even if it comes to like, we're looking for crushed tomatoes, well, we're going to look. If it has X, Y, and Z ingredients in it, then even if that tastes better than this one, we're not going to use that one. We're going to find something that is comparable, tastes just as delicious, but is cleaner. And it could potentially be more expensive, which is generally the case. But if you take a look at our menu, and I owe you meals, I'm going to get those to you because you need to try them.
I accept.
You will see that originally when Jamie set up the company, it was our primary market was gym rats, bodybuilders. Let's take it a 180 now. Our primary market is now our tertiary market, which is families, which are looking for convenience and delicious food, but you can eat every item on our menu. It's delicious. It's going to fill you up. It's a good portion, but at the same time, you're going to have your vegetable contingent, your protein, your starch. You're not going to feel like shit.
And that's where your staff of dietitians come into play.
Absolutely.
So, because I'm assuming that's not an area of expertise that you came to the table with.
No. Obviously, I have kind of the basics of, what's kind of the basic parameters, let's say.
Right.
But the dietitian, when we design, so we have like an 11-step process when it comes to designing a dish. We'll conceptualize a dish. We'll put it out there. We'll say we're going to use this. We'll put together a recipe for that, and we'll put together the dish. We'll send it to the dietitian. She'll take a look at it and be like, this works, this doesn't work.
Got it. So they're scoring it on a rubric of nutrition.
Absolutely, 100%.
Makes
So if
sense.
it has, it's like, oh, I use this in the recipe. Well, you can't use that, but what else can we use?
Yeah.
To get that same profile that we're looking for? And that comes down to, like I was saying earlier when we were briefly talking, like, we're looking for, deeper flavors and things like that. Well, maybe we go to a seaweed. And from the seaweed, we're pulling natural umami. It's adding a depth to this broth that we need. But we can add X, but if we use this, we can. It doesn't mess with the macros. It keeps us in line, and the product is still clean.
That's fun.
So
it's a balancing act, really, for your
100%.
Culinary mind.
Yes.
One that you weren't using probably nearly as much prior.
No, not at all. I mean, you come from a French background, you had cream and butter and all that stuff.
When we were cooking the burgers, I said, we're gonna put some butter in. You're like, yeah, but honestly, like normally I'd be using a lot more.
I just listen, like I said, fat is flavor, and I get it. But at Eat Clean Bro, we're able to provide this flavor, and we're able to produce these dishes that are flavorful by kind of using other ingredients that provide that for us. All of our stuff, we only use olive oil in everything we cook.
Right.
We're not using butter or anything like that. Even with the burgers, we use that clean American cheese, which I failed miserably at bringing here today for the burgers.
I had you covered, man.
You did have me covered.
I had
did.
Unclean
American
cheese.
American cheese. But this American cheese company called New School American Cheese, designed by two chefs, wanted to find a clean American cheese, and they created this product. It doesn't have all of the byproducts, preservatives, stabilizers, and all that stuff in. Very natural product, but delivers on the flavor. It's delicious. So it's all these things, and we design them into these meals. And the meals, like I said, they're fresh, never frozen. Place your order by 2 p.m. You're going to get the day before. You get your order your next day at your front door.
Amazing.
We're in 24 states now. We're expanding into Florida this year and then into Texas. And yeah, we don't pull any moves. Like some of these companies, what they'll do is they'll tell you the meal's fresh. They freeze it and then they'll put it in the box and ship it. What happens is they let it defrost during transit. So when you get it, you go, oh, it's fresh. Well, no, your product was frozen, but by the time you got it, it was fresh. But because they froze it, it allowed them to get it the distance it needed to be. So we do a lot of work. Like I said, everything from making sure the meals hit the nutritionals to making sure the product gets to you with the integrity that we put it out of the kitchen with. When we're testing recipes, we're not just cooking the food and tasting it. We're cooking the meal, we're plating it, we're chilling it, and then we're reheating it, and then we're tasting it after that to make sure it ticks all those boxes and it still slaps with flavor like it did.
Yeah, because things change.
100%.
Right.
So it's all these little things that we bring together, but that's that's what we do. And we're right in Eatontown. We got 3 stores. You can stop by there. We just branched out. We've got wholesale in some locations as well for our meals, and it's like being in the back in the restaurant industry. It's where we come full circle, and it's like continue for us in the meal prep game to keep kind of pushing those boundaries. And we see a lot of our competitors. I mean, there's 4,000 plus meal prep companies now. When Jamie started, there was like maybe 4. Like, times are changing and these companies have a lot of money behind them. But what separates us from them is the quality, the product we're using, the fact that we're fresh, never frozen, the culinary firepower that we have on the team, and our commitment to making it the best that we can make it.
Chef Nick Wilkins, thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
You guys can check out Eat Clean Bro. That is a local company. However, it's going national, maybe international at some point. You could check out New School American Cheese as well. We hope to taste it next time. There's a lot of other things we could have gotten into. So maybe we do this again.
Absolutely.
We got to make food again. We got to eat. Like was the best. So we'll have some of that footage. It's probably already in the show. However, Chef Nick Wilkins, thanks for coming on Through the Glass. I appreciate you, man.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Look forward to coming back, brother.
All right, everybody. Goodbye.